Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt. I got done with my workout this Saturday morning and I am pumped up and fired, ready to test some armor out here today. We have a special threat plate from R.A.N.G.E Outfitters. In full transparency, they contacted me and requested my services to demo some plates for them so that you guys have content to consume. If I had to equate this to a well-known plate based on the ratings in the back, this is an L210 competitor, except it's actually multi-curved, which is a positive. It weighs 4 pounds, 8 ounces and is approximately 720 thousandths thick. You can see from the close-up camera that there's markings on the outside edge right here. This does not employ a full edge-to-edge ceramic strike face. If this is the first time you've been to my channel, I am very data-driven. I try to provide you, the viewer, with as much information as possible so that if you're trying to buy some of this stuff or even just learn more about it, you've got this information handy. So if I'm a little boring, even watching me on 2X, I truly appreciate you sticking around to watch through the entire video. So I test at 45 feet, which is the NIJ testing distance. I test at 0 degrees. Any oblique or weird angles that the bullet hits the armor only increases the armor's performance because you're actually penetrating more material. I've been asked before to put magazines and other things in front of it, but that just helps the armor. I'm the bad guy here giving you the worst case scenario so that you know, worst case, if it stops it, then any real world scenarios are only going to further your confidence in this plate. I use this giant clay briefcase right here filled with Roma Plastilina #1 donated by Chavant. This provides us with a compressible media for the armor to stick against, and it weighs like 90 pounds so that it's not going to get knocked around and potentially give us false readings because the plate got shot into Kingdom Come because somebody put it on a steel target. Now, the NIJ actually has to heat this clay up to a specified temperature to give you real world back face numbers, so this is just kind of a representation. It's about 80 to 85 degrees outside. We also use a chronograph to measure velocity because not all loadings are the same. You can have something labeled M193 or M855 and it is not a full pressure load. So I want to give you that velocity data so that you know that that bullet is going as fast as the box says it is. Since this employs a ceramic strike face, we've gone ahead and dropped it on its face 2 times to precondition the ceramic armor. There are some papers out there that talk about the performance of armor after it's been cracked, and a lot of what I've read says that some of these cracks actually don't affect performance too much as long as the ceramic and polyethylene remained bonded. It's only when you lose that bond and then you have those cracks that performance is severely degraded. Allow us a few moments and we're going to have some fun today. Now, because this is a special rifle threat plate and I believe the manufacturer reseller is trying to compete with the L210, I want to shoot some special threats at it that we shot at the L210. So we have 300 blackout, we have M2 AP loaded at about 1700 feet per second. That's equivalent to a like 700 yard engagement. This is kind of mimicking 7.62 by 39 BZ API, but I don't have the API effect. So it's not the same, but it's kind of an approximation. You know, we have a hardened steel core that's going to present a problem for the plate. We also have M80A1. It's a 130 grain copper core with a arrowhead steel tip hardened to around 52 on the Rockwell C scale. So we have a 10.5 inch 300 blackout. Got the JK Armament rifle kit on here. We've got the SRT plate strapped to our clay briefcase. Now, since I used a level 3A backer in the L210 plate test, R.A.N.G.E Outfitters sent one for me to use as well. So we're going to take the M2AP shot first, then the M80A1 shot. Got the new Primary Arms Gen 2 Cyclops on here. Love the better defined reticle on this versus the Gen 1. Hopefully I hit where I want. Good velocity there. A little low for my testing. Now the A1 shot will be directly to the right. That one might have shot high. Let's go see what we did. strike that. We're gonna do our 5.56 threats, then we'll go down and check out the plate. I went down and checked it out myself. I have fair hits on there. So we're gonna place our 5.56 threats around that and see what we get. So like the L210 test, I've got M193. It's the Army's 55 grain full metal jacket, lead core. I have M855, which is what this plate is rated for. 62 grains, full metal jacket. It has a conical steel insert in the tip. Rockwell hardness of around 49 to 52, 54 in some of the foreign variants that I've measured. Then we have the Army's current issue M855 A1, 62 grains as well, a lot larger steel arrowhead that has actually been hardened to right around 60 Rockwell C scale. We have our 22-inch TC compass, so maximum barrel length, maximum unrealistic value. We've got the Turbo 5.56 on here. Now, if we get penetrations on this, like I said, I've got that 3A backer behind it. If we get penetrations and then even penetrations into the 3A, I have the 16-inch with me as well that we'll use. So the A1 shots will be last. Mosquitoes have left me alone after I've bathed in a gracious amount of DEET. So this is M193 first. I'm going to place this probably the upper left, very close to that M2AP shot. Good velocity off that. Then I'll place this kind of in the same line in the middle next to the M80A1 shot from the 300 Blackout. Good velocity there. Now our M855, which is what this plate is rated for. This will be on the right hand side below the M80A1. Good velocity there. Then we'll go all the way to the extreme left for the second M855 shot. Good velocity there. Now the A1 will be below the M2AP shot. Really good velocity there. And then this one will be below the M855 shot. Little poor velocity there. All right, now let's go check out what we did and see how well this plate performed. Got lots of holes here, folks, but what I'm detecting is we've got hexagon tiles in here. It'd be interesting to know how thick they are. Generally speaking, with our special rifle threats like M855 and M855A1, those thick little hexagon tiles can stop lots of those. So here was M193 number 1. Here was number 2. Here was the M80A1 in the 300 Blackout. Here was the M2AP in 300 Blackout. Here was M855 number 1, number 2. Here was A1 number 1 and number 2. I would consider all of these fair hits. Place those bets in the comments below. Did I just smoke another one of my stupid straps again? Let me zoom out a little bit on the camera here. Oh. R.A.N.G.E. We have 2 penetrations on the M2AP and the M80A1. You can see the core from the M2APs right there, and something from the M80A1 is there. But our 5.56 threats, no penetrations whatsoever. Our back face, very controlled for this thin plate. Now, like I said, I got the 3A backer behind it. So what we see in clay may be less. I'm really curious if these poke through. Oh, R.A.N.G.E. So the M80A1 poked through. But that M2AP, which is right there, it's there. I can feel the tip of it. But it didn't make it through. There's what's left of that core. So the ceramic, what it's supposed to do is it's designed to break up this steel core. So the less of this there is, it can then shift it and deteriorate enough of it so that it actually can't penetrate. So that's impressive. Now the L210, when we tested that, it stopped this round inside of the plate. It didn't pass through. It's kind of interesting. There's our M80A1. That's likely the copper core there. But backface wise, that's what I would consider very controlled. Now we'll take a shot with, you know, full bore 308 on here, because that's about the only thing I can think of left for an SRT plate. But this is performing very well, almost like the Militech RF2 that we tested that uses those hexagon tiles, and we shot one of those with, you know, 25 plus rounds of M855A1 out of the 22-inch, you know, over 3,000 feet per second, and it stopped it. So I think, depending on the role you want to fill, one of these SRT plates utilizing these hexagon tiles is really going to pay off as far as, you know, keeping the weight down and the overall thickness down while providing you with good multi-hit capability. I mean, you should be out of the way after the first shot, but it soaked up those rounds, and only our, you know, really obscure stuff that you probably would never see loaded made it through. The one good thing about having a private range is you don't got to worry about those brass bandits following you around stealing your brass from you. You can pick it up before you leave. You can pick it up the next time you come and the sun hits it differently and you see it. I have the final threat that we're going to throw against this SRT plate. We used M80 ball against the L210 plate, so it's only fair that we use it here. We have a 22-inch TC compass. Again, maximum unrealistic world threats. We've got M80 ball. This is Poonsang PMC. 145, 150 grain. I don't remember how much it weighs. We're going to see, should see over 2,700 feet per second. We have 3 rounds. We've got the 3A behind it. We'll see how this does. We have the JK Armament rifle kit on here to make the golfers happy. This shot will be placed below the M855 shot. Good velocity there. This will be placed left-hand corner below, down by where it says drop test. Woo. Good velocity there. And then this one we place dead center towards the bottom. That might have been a little too low. Good velocity out of all 3 of those. Now this is just an SRT plate. It's not level 3, it's not level 3 plus, it's not level 4. It's basically designed to stop 5.56 threats, which aren't addressed by the NIJ currently, but will when 07 standards finally hit. We'll have an RF1 and an RF2, which is the other plate that we're going to be testing from R.A.N.G.E. Outfitters. All right, our final 3 shots from M80 were right here, here, and here. You can see some of that foam on the outside edge. We'll do a tear down. Now, because they're using those hexagon tiles, there's a lot of real estate left on this plate that could take more hits. How many, I don't know. I'm imagining that if you shot this with more 5.56, it would soak them up. So I'm very curious on how this handled the M80 ball, whether or not it penetrated, and if it penetrated, did it make it past the 3A? If it didn't make it past the 3A, what's the back face look like? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, oh, oh. No freaking pass-through. Gotta love alumina and these hexagon tiles for these level 3 and SRT threats. Now there's a good dimple there, you know. I'm not going to deny that, but it stopped it. And there's some, that's a pretty good size pull there. I do have our depth gauge. Like I said, this clay is cold, so it's going to underrepresent the amount here. But let's see, go off this big guy here, 44 millimeters. You probably would see quite a bit more in NIJ clay, but interesting. This plate, totally not rated for level 3, stopped 3 hits of M80 ball. Color me impressed. Now, without that level 3A here, this is just a polyethylene plate through and through that's flexible. We probably would see quite a bit more back face there. This, I would feel, could just be added to the overall thickness of this plate. You're going to gain, you know, a few ounces, but interesting. I like it. I like those hexagon tiles. All right, we've got our A&D Outfitters SRT plate torn apart. Now, like I said, with these 5.56 threads, I think these hexagon tiles really excel based on how they're able to form that word. I'm going to mess it up, but how they destroy that projectile. You can see how those different cracks are forming in the ceramic. But look at how much of the tiles are still left on this plate. Now this looks to be like a foam, but it's really really thin. I'd like to see them increase this to about, you know, maybe 3 millimeters or something. Give us a good drop face on there. Keep using whatever this is, or maybe some kind of aramid on the front and back to, you know, glue all of these tiles together and keep them together. The longer you can keep them together and then keep them bonded to here, I see some good, you know, adhesive here, the longer this plate's going to perform against threats better. Now, this is a rather interesting part. This is our edge foam that we see on a lot of import plates, but this is almost like packaging foam, you know, like the Instapack that you mix the 2 different liquids together and it makes the expanding foam. It's really dense and hard. Now there is a little bit of more ductile foam here. We're seeing about 670 thousandths in off the edge before the ceramic starts on the sides. Down here it's a little more, and even up here it's, I think, about 870 thousandths. So like I said, this is not edge to edge, but I'm really impressed. If you could use some kind of aramid fiber on the front and back with heavy glue like we saw on the L210 plate, that ceramic strike face took a lot of hits. And while some of the threats made it through, the overall integrity of the L210 plate was very impressive because of how they bonded that ceramic together with what I looked like aramid fiber to me. Here's some of our penetrations in here. If I forgot to say, those tiles are 240 thousandths thick. Here's the back. Here's just more polyethylene. There were our 2 penetrations. Looking over the plate, there are no other penetrations on there. Nice. And it looks like that foam is all the way on the edge as well. If this were an edged edge plate, that would still be a good thing to do, so it protects your edge from taking any strikes and keeps the plate happy. Well, I certainly liked what I saw. As I mentioned, I would probably compare this plate to a Hesco L210. Very similar weight, although this one is multi-curve. We stopped M80 ball inside of that plate without making it into the 3A backer. We stopped our advanced 5.56 threats going out of the longest barrel length possible. Now the M2AP shot from the 300 blackout as well as the M80A1 were a problem for this plate. The M2AP got stopped in the 3A backer, but that nifty little M80A1 made it beyond it. If I had to offer any constructive criticism or suggestions to the manufacturer, we should see some drop face foam on there, you know, 3 millimeters thick, high density to help with those impacts, as well as adding some to the back You're going to add minimal thickness and very minimal weight, but you can use those foams to help control some of that back face. I'd like to see the foam ring on the outside reduced. Overall, I think if you have a criteria that calls for an SRT plate that's really light, that's capable of stopping 5.56 threats, I definitely would consider looking at this A&D Outfitters SRT plate. As I close out all my videos, I take a moment to thank all those who helped make these possible, especially in 2021. Number one is my Patreon supporters. Number two is Andy at A&D Outfitters, who contacted me and asked me to test these plates with no strings attached. And of course, number three is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.